for our exercise or example number 2, we have a function that starts with a negative in front of the x squared. Part A asks us to rewrite this in this format with some number 8, x minus or plus number some h, power 2 plus k. That means that we're going to complete the square. So let's go with part A, which is completing the square. Okay, so to complete the square, the first step that we need to take is that we want to make sure that our term with x squared, it's by itself, okay? No number here in front of it, except 1, right? So that means we have to get rid of this negative 2 for now, somehow, in order to let the x squared by itself. So what we're gonna do here is that we want to divide by negative 2 every single term, even the y, for now. So let's divide by negative 2 every single term in order to do the completing the square. So that means that negative 2 divided by negative 2, that leaves us with x squared. Now let's see if we could divide this. We have 12 divided by negative 2, that gives us negative 6x. And here we have a 7 divided by negative 2, that leaves us with negative 7 over 2. And here we have y divided by negative 2. Now we have the x squared by itself. The next step that we want to take is that we want to move the number by itself to the other side. So we could leave in the right side only the terms with x, meaning x squared and negative 6x. So we have a negative 7/2. So when we move it, it's going to be positive 7/2 and positive 7/2. When we do that, we are left with 7/2 minus y over 2, right? Because it's negative here, equals, or let's leave some space here, okay? Because we're going to add some number here. Equals x squared minus 6x. We're going to add some number here and add some number in here as well, into both sides, plus here and plus here. But one number is going to be, again, like in the previous exercise or example, we're going to grab our number in front of the x and we're going to divide it by 2. So we're going to get minus 6 divided by 2 and then power 2. Remember, it's the number in front of the x, not the x squared. This one, okay? That will leave us with negative 3 power 2, which eventually becomes 9. So this 9 is going to go into both boxes, okay? 9 here, 9 here. That will leave us with 7/2. Let's write the 9 first, okay? Because we're going to combine them eventually, okay? Plus 9 and then bring down y over 2 at the end. Equals, let me rewrite it first and then we're going to do the factorization. Okay? So now, let's combine these two numbers. Notice that we have a fraction here, but 9 is also a fraction. We just need to add a 1 there. In order to add a fraction, if you have forgotten, don't worry about it. We need to have the same denominator. We have 2 here, we have 1 here. Our LCD between 2 and 1 is automatically 2. So we have to make this 1 into 2 by multiplying it by 2. If I multiply by 2, that bottom, I multiply that top by 2 as well. That will leave us with 7 over 2 plus 9 times 2, that gives us 18 over 2 minus y over 2, which we're not going to combine, okay, because they're not like terms, equals, now let's take a look at here. The factorization of this one is always going to be a perfect square factorization, meaning it's always going to look like that. The only term that is going to change is this number next to x here. The number that is going to go here is always the number in the parentheses with the power 2 before our final solution to complete the square. That means that is -3. So we just bring it down here and we copy and paste it there. Now we have to combine like terms in the left side. Okay, so notice that we have 7/2 plus 18/2. So we have the same denominator already. So we bring it only one, and then we combine the top numbers. 7 plus 18, that will leave us with a 25 over 2. Let's bring the rest of the terms. Okay. Now, what we want to do is that we want to get rid of these 2 that is dividing, meaning we want to get rid of fractions. Okay, so in order to get rid of something that is dividing, we do the opposite, which is multiplication. So we multiply by 2, right? Because we have a 2 here and 2 here. We multiply by 2 every single term. So by 2 here, by 2 here, and by 2 there. Every single term. So we have 3 terms. This, and this one. So that will leave us with these 2 and these 2 will automatically cancel. So we are left with 25. Again, these 2 and these 2 cancel. We are left with y equals a 2 in front of the parentheses. Okay? Now notice, let's solve for y from here. Okay? Because we want it in this format right here. So we need to solve for y. So to solve for y, we need to move the 25 to the other side. So 25 is automatically positive. So to move it to the other side, we do the opposite, right? So this cancels. So we are left with -y equals 2 times x minus 3 power 2 minus 25. Remember, this one and this one, these 2 and this -25, you cannot combine it because these 2 belong to this multiplication here. So you cannot combine these 2. Now, the next step, notice that we have a -y. We have to get rid of this negative. Notice that our number in front of y automatically it's a 1. So that means that we have a -1 in front of the y. So to get rid of something that is multiplying, again, we do the opposite. So we need to divide by -1 every single term. Okay? That will leave us with -1 divided by -1, positive y, equals 2 divided by -1, or the whole thing divided by -1 is -2 x minus 3 power 2. Now notice here, a negative divided by negative, we have a positive 25. So our completing the square is done. Now let's go to part B. Part B is find the vertex. Remember, the vertex is in this format, h and k. Our h value is going to be the opposite sign of the number inside the parentheses. If our function is in this format right here, which is basically this format right here, okay? That means that our vertex is gonna be the opposite sign of -3, which is +3, and the same of the number outside of the parentheses, not the -2, but the 25 to the right, which is 25. So our vertex is 3, 25. For part C, we need to find the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry is simply x equals the h value of our vertex. In this case is 3, so it's just simply x equals 3. So part D, let's first find our x-intercept or intercepts, okay? To do that, we need to let y equals 0. Let's write that function first, which is in this format, which we have it here. Let's rewrite it. We have y equals -2
x minus 3 power 2 plus 25.
Now to find x, we need to let the y equal 0. So let's start by doing that. 0 for y, and let's copy everything else. The next step that we want to do is to solve for x. So our following step is, let's move the 25 to the other side.
Okay.
So that will leave us with these cancels. So we have -25 equals -2 x minus 3 power 2. The following step is to let the parentheses with power 2 by itself, meaning we have to get rid of this -2 that is multiplying all of this. It's multiplying. So the opposite will be dividing by that exact number. It's -2, right? So we divide it by -2. So that way these two cancels, and we are left with negative divided by negative is 25 over 2 equals x minus 3 power 2. Now notice the next step. Our next step is to get rid of this power 2 here. So to do that, we're gonna do square root to both sides. But remember, be careful. Do not forget the plus or minus of the number, okay? Not this one, for the number, okay? So this one is gonna be, now notice, we have a square root of a fraction here. In order to simplify, because as you might know, the square root of 25 is 5. And that way we could simplify. So let's separate each number having its own square root. That means we're going to have a square root of 25 divided by the square root of 2. Each one having a square root. This is the same as this one. Equals, now notice here, same square root, same exponent, gone. We are left with x minus 3. Now we could simplify the top. So we will be left with 5. There's no square root of 2, right? So we have to bring it down. Equals x minus 3. Now to solve for x, we are just left with one step, which is to move the -3 to the other side. So it's negative, so we do plus 3, plus 3. So we are left with x equals 3. Remember to write the number that you move first, and then the plus or the minus, right? Which is 5 square root of 2. Let me rewrite it here so you could see. We have
X equals 3 plus or minus 5 square root of 2.
Okay, so one solution is going to be with the plus, and the other solution with the minus. So one is 3 plus 5 square root of 2. When you enter this into the calculator, approximately 6.5. And our second solution is 3 minus 5 minus square root of 2. When you enter this into the calculator, you're going to get approximately negative 0.5. So our 2x intercepts are going to be 6.5, 0 for y, and negative 0.5 for x, and 0 for y. Not too bad, right? Now, our next step is to find our y-intercept, which is much easier than to find x-intercept. So let's do that. Find y-intercept. For that, we need to let x equals 0, okay? So let's rewrite the equation first. Let's substitute x for 0, so, and solve for y. A -2, 0 minus 3, power 2 plus 25. That leaves us with -2, so we have to do the inside part of the parentheses first, and eventually, and for the next step, the exponent, right? That leaves us with -2. -3 power 2 is 9, because -3 times -3 is +9, plus 25. Then we have to get, so -2 times 9, it's -18, plus 25, which give us 7. So our point is 0 for x and 7 for y. So we know that our graph, when we sketch the graph, is gonna pass through 0, 7. Our final step is to sketch the graph, right? Let's gather our points that we have found so far. Our vertex, right, that we found from part B, which is 325. Our x-intercept that we found from part D,
which is 6.5, -0.
-0.5, 0. And from our y-intercept, which is 0, 7. Okay? So let's do the graph. Let's graph the first one, right? Notice that we have a big number here, which it doesn't fit in here, right? So let's say that 25 is right there, right? Did you say that? So it's gonna be 3 for x and 25 for y. So let's see, it's around there. That's our first point, right? Second point will be x-intercepts. So they're always gonna be on this x-axis, okay? 6.5, 4, 5, 6. So 6.5, it's around here, right? It's a little bit to the right of 6. And then -0.5, which is between -1 and 0. So let's say it's about there. So notice that it's already taking some shape, right? Now, the last one will be 0, 7. So it's gonna be right here. 0 for x, 7 for y. So notice that our graph is gonna look something like this. Now notice, why is it downward? From the beginning, or from our part A, notice that our number in front of everything is a -2. It's a negative, so automatically that gives us a hint that it's gonna open downwards. If this were positive, like in the previous example, we're gonna open upward. Thank you for watching.